gonna be a heck of a year for Shenmue. So 2022 is a year for Shenmue. Hello, this is Magnus, and if you like this type of content when it comes to classic games, bringing games back to life, and Shenmue in general, definitely consider subscribing. I'm like so close to 1,000 subscribers, so 2022 is a special year. If not only for that, 2022 is a huge year for Shenmue as well. First, we've got the long-awaited Shenmue anime premiering in 2022, which is exciting. I've already done a video on the first initial trailer and all the stuff I found, so if you want to, you should go and check that out in my channel. And then finally, there's been a streamer, Edmanuel Rodriguez, who's been actually streaming Shenmue 3, as he's been a fan since the series launched many years ago, but yet only now he's getting around to playing Shenmue 3, and hearing his take has been pretty cool, as he's streaming online playing Shenmue 3, and I'm sitting there in the chat telling him, do this, do that, do that. So that's been pretty fun as well. Now moving on to today's topic, Shenmue 3 and that fighting engine versus Shenmue 1 and 2's fighting engine. Now this is a particular topic that I have debated in my own head for a long time, and many fans have stated that the Shenmue 3 fighting engine isn't as great as Shenmue 1 and 2. Well, today I'm going to tell you right now that I actually had fun and almost prefer Shenmue 3's fighting engine. Yep, don't come at me, but you probably will. I'm defending Shenmue 3's fighting engine versus Shenmue 1 and 2 in today's video. Now first, let's talk about the differences in the fighting engines. Shenmue 1 and 2 were based on the Virtua Fighter series. Now that fighting engine originated in the early 90s with Virtua Fighter, of course. And then over the years, it was able to maintain its relevance, refine itself, tweak itself to be perfect, and then get ported over into Shenmue, of course, where you still use this similar, if not almost exact, fighting engine for Shenmue. Now that in particular is great. When you have a refined fighting engine that you can use in a game, it's awesome. However, one of the downsides to that is that that fighting engine was based on one-on-one fighting. And in Shenmue, there are certain particular sequences and situations where you're fighting multiple groups. And I believe that's where the Shenmue's fighting engine, particularly coming from Virtua Fighter, falls apart. Meeting multiple opponents, turning to face multiple opponents, and the awkward movements that Ryo Hazuki has when he's fighting multiple opponents is really kind of jerky and jittery. Transfer that to Shenmue 3. Now Shenmue 3's fighting engine, the history of that is that there is no history. It was built from the ground up for Shenmue 3. So it had the advantage of being a fighting engine that's designed to be a Shenmue 3 fighting engine, not a Virtua Fighter fighting engine. Now there are upsides and downsides to that as well, because you had to mimic some of the aspects of the fighting because it's relevant to the storyline of Shenmue. However, you had to, of course, create the engine from the ground up and be its own unique thing. And it was. I believe it's successful in bringing that type of combat into kind of this new world that was built for Shenmue 3. Now, it's not perfect because it still seems to be geared towards one-on-one fighting, though the movements when it comes to multiple opponents isn't as jerky as it was in Shenmue 1 and 2, and it's a little bit more seamless to fight multiple opponents, which is where I think the Shenmue 3 engine stands out. Now another thing about the Shenmue 1 and 2 fighting engine is that when you're fighting, you hit the button and then Ryo will perform the attack, and he's very quick. It's just sudden movements. It's really responsive when you're using the controls. And that's great to have in this storyline. However, Shenmue 3, many people have pointed out that when you press a button, Ryo's execution of those movements was lagging. It wasn't as quick as what it used to be. It's almost like you enter the button combination, then you have to wait a moment before Ryo actually pulls that off. Now, in many situations, that is really definitely considered a downside. However, I will say that when I got used to that type of fighting, it made me think of fighting in Shenmue 3 as a anticipation type of combat rather than just, quick reflex combat. So I almost had to anticipate my opponent's movements versus Shenmue 1 and 2, where it was just kind of like, what you do is you're gonna do something, your opponent's gonna do something, and we'll see what happens. And yeah, you can reflect or do things when you anticipate quickly, and it's very responsive. However, Shenmue 3, it's almost like you have to do predictive fighting. And the engine that is designed with this fighting system allows for that. So there is a bit of predictability in Shenmue 3's fighting. So if you're distant from your opponent in Shenmue 3, for example, you could almost guarantee that they're going to run towards you, and then you can counter. When they're close to you, they're going to try to do some really hard smashing hits to get Ryo off guard. And although those movements can vary from a quick sweep to any standing hard punches or kicks, it's something of a what will I do to predict what they're going to do and counter, but you have to think ahead. And yeah, that could be challenging, but when you get used to that, it's actually pretty fun. And the third and one of the final reasons why I prefer Shenmue 3's fighting versus 1 and 2 is that fighting seems to be a little bit more frequent in Shenmue 3. You can actually choose your fights and fight as much as you want. In Shenmue 2, that was possible when you would find street fights and then you can have combat there. But there's so much of the story that you have to progress in order to get to those sections that it's almost like off-putting. Whereas in Shenmue 3, you pretty much can join a fighting tournament within the first few minutes of the game and really get your skills up so that you could get used to the new engine. But I have to admit that while Shenmue 1 and 2 I enjoyed the fighting and looked forward to whenever there was an opportunity to actually fight in the game, in Shenmue 3, because of the physics and the way they designed that engine and just the fighting overall, albeit it's got no throws as in Shenmue 1 and 2, so Shenmue 1 and 2 takes the advantage there. Shenmue 3, you can't throw your opponent, which is, I got used to that. Shenmue 3 has never made me laugh so much with the physics that they designed in Shenmue 3 when you're having a fight. The way these characters move about, the ragdoll physics, the reactions to powerful moves, such as like when I perform an elbow assault on an opponent, you really feel it as they fly to the floor and then they get up in frustration. I absolutely enjoyed that in Shenmue 3, and quite honestly, I laugh so hard in enjoyment and in fun when I'm in a fight in Shenmue 3. And especially when it came to those experiences, and this is spoiler alert, but towards the end of the game, you actually fight characters that are based off of some of the contributors to the Kickstarter when Shenmue 3 was getting pushed. So that to me brings another reason to add a smile to my face. Like, I'm actually fighting these jerks who paid an obscene amount of money to be in this game, which again brings a smile to my face. Shenmue 3 gives you a lot of reasons to smile with its dedication to its fans, with its pretty detailed artwork that they have in the game when it came to all of the areas that you visit. And quite honestly, the fighting in general had me pretty much smiling the whole time. So that's it. Those are my reasons why I enjoyed the Shenmue 3 fighting just a tad more than Shenmue 1 and 2. Let me know in the comments down below what you think and all the reasons why I'm wrong. Which is fine. We're a community and I enjoy having conversations with you guys. And I'm pretty close to 1,000 subscribers. So that's definitely a reason to celebrate with you guys. I've been producing content all year, and you bet that when the Shenmue anime premieres, we're going to be all over that, covering that on this channel. Once again, thank you guys for subscribing, for watching, and of course, as always, you'll make my day if you subscribe today. This is Magnus, and I'm out. Definitely check out the videos I've got posted here, and hopefully you'll stick around for more. Take care.